Hello, hello, hello. It is Thursday. My screen come in. As of the record as of the recording of this video, this is the Melanated Air Hour. For the next hour, we are going to talk to you about life and business from a melanated perspective. I don't do this by myself. The Melanated Air Hour is hosted by myself and up to 4 other beautiful young ladies. Today you have myself, LaNee Javet, along with Keisha Ravenell at We Inspire Brand. Joining us later should be Teddy and Madam President. They will be they'll be dropping in momentarily, so you'll be able to see 4 of us today. Our topic today, I don't know if you guys have seen this interview, and I'm going to share the interview with you. Our topic today is you don't make enough money, so I need a prenup. And that's not what we said. That's based off of a video. And I'm going to show you guys this video. And we want to talk about it. The video says that, according to lead attorney in his interview with Suzzette Speaks, if a man makes $80,000 a year, he has no business marrying a woman that makes $35,000 a year. We want to talk about that. What do y'all think? Do you agree? Don't you disagree? But before you weigh in, we want to share the video with you, okay? So let me share my screen, and then I can share the video with you guys. So you guys can actually see and get the context, okay? Here we go.
Criteria you have when it comes to women.
Can you guys hear?
What do you want in terms of, okay, so I was asking you if you like professional, working class, are you a captain, save them? I don't know how else to put it. Like, what do you like? Do you like to deal with professional women? Do you prefer blue collar women, or what is your preference?
What's a blue collar woman?
I would say probably.
I've never heard that.
No, I'm trying to, because I'm going to ask you about blue collar men. So I would characterize a blue collar man, probably 75,000 or less, or average Joe. So a blue collar woman probably would make, they say there's no pay, this inequity or inequality, excuse me. So I would say a woman probably making, I would say 50,000 or less.
Yeah, here's the thing. All right. It's kind of different answers, but it's kind of the same answer. I will go out on a date, and I don't have any salary requirements. You know, you could be making 40,000 and I'll go on a date with you. You could be making 140,000, 240,000. I don't care. I don't really care. Yeah, maybe is that the answer to the question?
Okay, so you're saying you don't have any requirement. Do you have an educational requirement? Do they have to have a GED, or can they be without a GED, or do you prefer a woman that has a degree or no degree? Is there
Here's the thing. Let me be very precise, because I don't want young men to misunderstand it. If you are making over 6 figures as a man, and you marry a woman who's making 40 grand, you are asking for trouble, right? You're in a hole. Now, you can get a ladder that will get you out of that hole. The problem is most of you get down in that hole and you don't want to get your ladder. And the interesting thing is that you get down in the hole, you know you don't get the ladder. You know you need the ladder, but you don't get the ladder because you're scared to get the ladder. Because you don't want the woman to see you with the ladder. What is the ladder? You don't get them. I hear some feedback.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
The ladder is a prenup, right? The ladder is a prenup. If you are making, let's say you're making 80,000 and you marry a woman making 30,000, you need a damn prenup. And so many men just jump into the hole and they're scared to ask the woman for the damn prenup. Or they think it's going to work out and they don't need it. But usually, if I'm going to be honest, they don't want to have a discussion. They don't want to have an argument. Kim is exactly right. Kim Riley is exactly right. So I can marry a woman who's making 40,000 and put myself deep in a hole, but I will have a ladder to get out. All right. See, this is what I hear from.
We got back and forth. People are gonna have their opinions about this. Did you have a prenup when you married?
I didn't.
You wish you had?
No.
Okay.
she didn't screw me on the
Okay.
on the divorce, you know. Thank the Lord. But she didn't screw me.
Okay. So
all right, and so that's where the clip ends. Now, let's stop sharing my screen here. Remove that. Okay, here comes Madam President has officially joined us, and here comes Teddy. I told y'all they was going to be here. So you guys got to see the clip. And so when we saw the clip on the back end, we were like, what the and then somebody said, I forget, I think it was Faye or Teddy who said, we got to watch the whole video because we don't know the context. Yeah. And I would tell you that watching the whole video and putting it in context really helped me change my mind about how I felt about this clip, because my initial reaction was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Women need to be getting prenups out here these days, the way that the world is. And so initially I was like, hold up a second. But then when I watched the context, she was asking him from the man perspective. And so the whole video is from a man's perspective. So that helps me a little bit. But I still have some feelings about it. So we're going to go about the room because since I like to get y'all involved and engaged in the conversation. Keisha, what were you brought this to the Melanated Air Hour. What were your thoughts when you saw the video?
Yes. But, oh Lord, I can't hear that. What's going on? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So this was a hot topic in our group chat last night. Shout out to my best friend, Danny. She brought it to the group chat. And when I first saw the video, I was just like, okay, well, I think everyone should have a prenup, regardless of if he makes 80 and she makes 40, or he makes 80 and she makes 80. You should have some type of protection in place. And the thing that got me was he's saying that he makes 80K. Just because you make 80K, that doesn't mean you're worth 80K. So he can be making 80K, but he can be in a whole bunch of debt. And then she could be making 35K, but, she's building her assets. So that doesn't mean, that he's better off financially than she is because he makes $80,000 a year. And then you could have a woman making $80,000 a year, just like he's making $80,000 a year, but she really is out to get him. Right. So I think that there needed to be more context, and it was like a 5-hour video. So we watched probably like an hour of it. I was not watching 5 hours, but maybe he did mention that somewhere in the interview. But I think that's important to bring to the forefront. Like, just because you're making 80K or 6 figures, that doesn't mean that you're financially responsible.
Okay. Teddy?
I think people misuse income as if it means something, because just as Keisha pointed out, income doesn't mean anything. A high school janitor, whatever that makes, can have $1 million between his 401k and his savings, investments, and real estate. And then someone making $150,000 a year could be living check to check, living beyond their means. So they have assets, but they don't really own anything. You know what I'm saying? And then secondly, he's just talking about, well, first I was talking about prenup. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe there's a lawyer in the comments. Let me know. As far as I know, prenup means prenuptial. That means whatever assets you own before you got married are safe from the marriage forward. But anything you accrue during the marriage is fair game, generally in most states with most prenups. I'm sure that you can write it up differently. So he's using this income number. And he's probably put on the spot. I'm not trying to knock this brother. But he didn't say he has a home, 500,000 in his 401k, 3 Bitcoin. He's not saying these things. He's talking about what the brother makes. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. And we have to stop pitting our men and our women against each other, back and forth. Because if you were going to grow, I saw someone in the comments, we've been getting some comments, but a while back, they were like, 115,000 together, they could do something. They could build a foundation. And that is the truth. You are building together. You are a freaking team. So what really needed to be the discussion, even though he was a lawyer talking about finances, is, are you marrying someone you can trust? Are you marrying someone you're in love with? Are you marrying someone that you can grow with? Are you marrying someone that you are in sync with? Like that, those are the questions. I don't think the money is the problem. The problem is people are wanting to marry people that they don't have a connection to, and they haven't talked about the future or the present. So they get disconnected soon after the marriage.
Okay. Madam President, you're on mute, baby.
Guys, hey y'all. Okay, so Teddy, I agree with you so much in this context because I feel like also too, when are we going to have just a flat out conversation on class when it comes to dating? That's all the income requirements are. It's a class thing. Oh, a person make a certain amount of number, they are of a certain class. But I guess we want to be safe and don't want to hurt folks' feelings and say he or she is not a part of my economic class. But just call a spade a spade. But a lot of y'all, a lot of us, we grew up in that environment where it really don't matter when you grow up in certain environments. You grow up in the hood and you got the working class family and you end up making $150,000 a year. Guess what? Your heart is still attached to working class mindsets. So a psychology, even when you date, when you meet a person and they make $40,000-$50,000 a year. You don't really care because that's what you saw your mom and them making, your aunties and them making, and you don't even, it really doesn't bother you until you get into these different social classes where people are sitting around, Harvard and Yale graduates and make all this money and the conversation is completely shifting. That's when you start thinking about like, oh, okay, I better date somebody of this certain class. We got a class issue. And let me tell Black folks something. We got way too many issues to be having class issues. I think we need to stay rooted in the value system. What are your values? Do we value the same thing? Are we going after the same thing? Are we trying to chop the same giant off the head? I think those things allow us to be progressive. But I don't know if LaNee, you've asked the question if the prenup is necessary or not. I do like the concept and the construct of prenups. I think that people should go into any kind of business partnership, loveship, with a plan in mind, with some kind of strategy in mind. Like they say, hey, we want this thing to go forever. We want it forever, whatever that means. However, if this thing needs to be divided, let's do it properly. Let's do it properly. I think that's a level of maturity because I think we all fell in love and married somebody in our head quite a few times, So it's like if we would have said I do as many times as we said we did, the hell, we'll be having a lot of agreements going on right about now.
And so you said, all of you guys said a lot of good things, and sometimes I like to go last just because I want to. First of all, I just want to make sure everybody get a chance to talk, right? Because I said your girl, sometimes she get wordy. But I want to come in and kind of bring it all together. I did not ask the question about whether or not a prenup is necessary, but I think we kind of all hit it. And I do think that prenups are good to get, regardless of what you make, because it's better to have these conversations up front, like Teddy said, prenuptial. I love you, you love me. Let's come together and decide what should happen if something goes awry while we love each other, before we get angry and mad and upset and we're hurt, and hurt people. So prenuptial says we both are in love with each other. Should something go wrong, how should we look? What should we do? I also like what Teddy said, which is you get what you came in with. If we are together and we work together and we are a team and we build something, we should equally get a piece of that. Whether it's the woman being at home, taking care of the family, loving on the kids, doing the budget, running the numbers, being there where you travel the world so that we can make this money. She did her part too, right? So that should be equally yoked, or vice versa. If it's the woman that's running the town and the CEO, and it's the husband that's home and raising the kids, equally yoked. We are a team. We built this together. So do I think prenuptials are necessary? Yes, because what happens is when people do get to that place and one of them makes the money, then you look at the other person like they didn't do their part, and now they shouldn't have anything. So yes, prenuptials are good. Yes, we should have that conversation in the front. I don't know how many of you guys got the chance to watch the whole video in context, because in the beginning he was talking about businesses are for profit. So a lot of times we say getting married is a business, right? Bringing two people together, that's a business. You're doing it for wealth. One of the points he said is business is for profit. Taking on a wife causes you to lose money. Marriage is an expense, not a business. That's what he was saying. And he was alluding to it, if you will. And I have to disagree. I agree and I disagree. Marriage is a contract. It literally is. You have to sign your name on the dotted line. A prenuptial agreement, it is a contract. But I think when people go into marriage looking at it as an expense, or as if you're taking on somebody else's debt or weight or liability, or looking at them as an asset, then you go into the business contract or the marriage contract at a deficit already, right? I think you have to go into this thing looking at it the same way you would a business. How do we make this a success? What do we do to keep this afloat? And a prenup is like an operating agreement that says, okay, this is where the part you play. This is the part that I play. These are my expectations of you. Should this not work, this is how we're going to do it. This is our exit strategy. And if we go into marriages like that, we can have a lot of those conversations up front that lead to divorce. Yes. But because we don't have those prenup conversations, those what do you expect? Where should we go? How should this end? What should you walk away with? We don't have those conversations. So we get to the end and now we're lost and we're angry and we're upset and we're frustrated and now we're hurt and we walk away from the situations more damaged. Right. What do you guys think about business being about marriage being a business?
What I want to say definitely is when you start a business and you have your operating agreement, partnership agreement, whatever it is, within that agreement, it talks about if the business should dissolve or if one of the partners wants to dissolve the business, if you want to dissolve your business. So it's talked about from the beginning. And I think that prenups from I would say from soap opera times, that's the first time I heard of a prenup was watching Young and the Restless when I was little with my mom. And I think that we have told ourselves it's planning for failure at the start of something that you want to last or something. So I fully believe that prenuptial agreements, especially when there's assets before each marriage, are a good idea. So you're starting that conversation. It's like having marriage counseling before you get married. A lot of couples don't do that, and you don't have those hard questions: religion, children, finance, sickness. What are we really going to do if something bad happens? And the whole goal is to grow. All of these partnerships, joining, coming together, is about growth. So it absolutely is necessary, and it shouldn't have a negative connotation. But don't go thinking that because you got some money and I may not, that I can't blow it. I think, LaNee, you said that in our chat. You said that people have been blowing up all over the place. I had a good year this year, and this is my first year on the internet, Al Gore's internet, okay? So I have nowhere to go but up. So don't judge me by what has happened last year, because next year is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tabitha Brown. She just retired her husband from the police force. So when they got together, he was the one that was working. She was the one that didn't have any money at that time because she was following her dreams. Now I think she said 5 years. I think it's 15 years, something like that, something crazy. And now she was like, hey, babe, go ahead and leave. I got it. So I'm going to hold us down. And so income statuses have shifted. So if you go into a marriage only looking at what that person has and or does not have, you may miss out on your blessing if you don't work as a team. If we only look at marriage from the perspective of money and what you have today, right now, some folks is going to be single forever. And you may really have somebody that's willing to work with you and be your teammate and help us build. What do you guys think? I didn't get a chance to you guys answer.
I'm curious to know why he doesn't think marriage is a business, but he's so gung-ho on a prenup. So you have that operating agreement, right? As both of you ladies said, and that is some type of business paperwork, right? So no, the whole marriage is not just based on business, but if marriage wasn't some type of a business, then why are we talking about the money aspect? Because he went in on the money aspect, right? Don't marry someone, or if you marry someone that makes less than this amount, then you should get a prenup. So it just sounded a little contradictory to me.
Okay. Madam President, anything? You're on mute, babe.
I'm so sorry, my dog's barking.
I know you got Huey over there trying to get into the conversation.
Yeah, so basically, no, I'm pretty much with Keisha on that as far as the prenup situation, and it's an agreement. But something that you said about Tabitha Brown and her husband, I feel like that's how marriage should go. We're not You know, we're not robotic. Like if you truly, and I feel like that's when you know that you're in something good, when the income shifts. It's like, okay, you held me down during my times of my pursuing my dreams, allow me to do the same for you. I mean, are we crazy? Do folks like each other these days? Like, what's going on? I'm like, this is a healthy love ship. And like, people be having a problem with that. What's wrong? That's why I feel like no matter what we do, I feel like we need to be healthy minded. Because I feel like when you're not healthy minded, no matter what, whether you have a prenup or not, whether you in marriage or just dating, you know, it's not, you're going to drive yourself crazy because you are getting into a life with another human being who you do not have any control over. You only have control over yourself. Okay. So it's like, you know, when we going into these situations, I hope that we can just be decent and, you know, do this thing as right as possible.
But you know that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in the breakup. That doesn't happen when there's infidelity or thought of infidelity or mismanagement of finances and lies, whatever it may be. And I see in the comments, a lot of people are like, marriage is a covenant. Yeah, it's supposed to be. But let's talk about what is. You know what I mean? Like love, marriage, baby carriage. That's the order, but then things don't go in that order all the time. There's oopsies. There's all kinds of stuff, right? So we got to be realistic. And we, as a Black community especially, have to stop running away from legal structure, right? The things that make things legal, we don't like them. And some things ain't got no business, like with family court and all that. We're putting family court in our business and stuff. But when it comes to protecting assets, generational wealth, if you have generational wealth to leave to your children, you don't want to leave that to a chicken head. And I'm not saying all women is chicken head. I'm saying there can be a chicken head. You didn't know it was a chicken head because the booty was so round. You wasn't looking at her brain, right? So then you find out you've made a mischaracterization. And at that point, your generational wealth is at jeopardy. So let's just be realistic, folks. Let's be realistic and get to the root of what Madam President said, and that's fix ourselves, be healthy, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and then everything else will fall in line. But you got to get there first.
And all of that goes into making a profit as well. So I know he mentioned marriage being an expense if you take on a wife, but if this wife is pouring into you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that's going to contribute to your wealth. So this wife may be doing something for you that you can't do for yourself. She may be contributing to you that, you know, something that you can't give to yourself. So marriage doesn't always have to be an expense. And I feel like that's where like the whole business thing comes in, because he's like, oh, well, you know, business is made to make a profit. Well, sometimes businesses don't make a profit. Does that make it any less of a business?
No, ma'am. Good job. Oh, good commentary today. So I want to play devil's advocate. I want to go to the other side of the conversation, right? Slide there said, get married young, no prenup. White Falcon 44 said, prenup is not it. And then followed it with, I'm going to make kids with this woman. How do I sound asking my future wife for a prenup? Now, I will tell you, so in the video, he talks about getting married young. And he says, when you get married in your 20s, a lot of times you're led by your nostrils. You're getting married off of emotion. You love this person. Why would I do a prenup? We're going to be together forever. And then when you get divorced and you're looking at getting remarried in your 40s, you're like, oh, we're going to do a prenup. You're more established. You have something to lose. He called it's more calculated. So in your 20s, you're being led by the nostrils. It's way more emotional. You're getting married for emotions, if Faye was here, and love. But a lot of times if you're, 40 plus, it's more calculated. You're looking at this from all aspects. What do you have to lose? What are you bringing to the table? What are they bringing to the table? And so to your point, there's a couple of things we don't talk about in our community, right? Prenups is one of them. And estate planning is the other. We don't talk about things that make us uncomfortable, like what should happen if this marriage doesn't work and what should happen when you pass away. Both of these things are conversations around generational wealth that we avoid and we need to be having, because we're seeing it play out time and time again. And I'm not just talking about celebrities on TV. I forget somebody over here in the comments said it. Enigma. No, it wasn't Enigma. Somebody over here said, I've seen it happen too many times with my own friends where the relationship goes to shit, if you will, and one of them loses out. And that is happening. Like, we can protect our own homes, our own families, our own children, our own wealth by having this conversation up front. Also, it might help people. It might lower our divorce rate if we have more of these conversations. People wouldn't be so quick to be like, I'm done, I'm out, I'm leaving, I want half. Like, if we actually have these conversations up front, people might think about going into marriage, or they might think about fighting for that marriage a little bit stronger than just walking away so quickly. What do you guys think about? And Teddy's the only one that is here that is married. But Keisha is in her early 30s and she's dating. What do you guys think about that concept of talking about a prenup and asking for a prenup in your 20s versus your 40s, and or why people get married in their 20s making more emotional versus in your 40s is a little bit more calculated. There's a little bit more pause. You're going to think about it a little bit differently.
I want to chime in real quick because I had an oopsie when I was 18. It wasn't babies. It was a quick marriage. I'm active duty military, enlisted, first time away from home. Got the Love Joneses, had a quick marriage, it was somebody I dated for through the last year of high school. Anyway, got married immediately. I knew it was wrong before I knew I wasn't into it before I did it anyway, quickly nipped it in the bud. At that point, we both didn't have nothing. So there would have been really no point for a prenup. Because again, I want a lawyer to tell me, because as far as I know, a prenup is really for assets that you have before you got married. Now, if I had my grandmama left me her house or something, that would have been important, because when we had our divorce, those things came up. So to your point, LaNee, two things. If you have the conversation, I saw, was it Lady Brand, Boss Lady Scott? She says, what do you do when the mate doesn't even want to have the conversation? That's a serious red flag, because there is nothing I cannot talk to my husband about. Now, he may not like it, right? Whatever we're talking about, but we can talk about anything. And that's a line. I said, there is nothing that I shouldn't be able to say to you and we can have a conversation about, period. Dot. So that's the first thing. So that's a red flag for me. But the second thing is, if you have that conversation in the beginning and there's a whole bunch of resistance, or you guys can't move forward from it, well, then there's your answer. Because if y'all can't get through this, how are you going to get through cancer? How are you going to get through infertility? How are you going to get through both of y'all lose your job at the same time, or whatever it may be? Like, this is hard. So if you can't have a conversation about what to do if this don't work out, that's it. That's your sign. Turn around, go the other direction. I told you about going down that wrong road. Turn your ass around, go back the other direction, call it quits.
Yeah. So for me, I've never been married before, but I was engaged and we bought property together. And we didn't have anything in place to say, like, okay, well, if this engagement doesn't work out and we don't get married, then what happens to the property? So luckily it did work out, because it didn't work out in the engagement, but I moved out. I let him have the property. And then he was like, I'll give you the money that you put in. So, like, that worked out. But what happens when you don't have two mature adults? And, that could get very, very messy. So I think just in regard, and I was in my 20s. So I was in my 20s. I was 18 when I met him, and we were together until I was about 30 years old, on and off. And all of that was because of the feelings. And it's like, oh, I want to get married, and I'm closer to getting married now. And it wasn't those conversations, because if I'm honest, we didn't have those same values. So like spiritually, we didn't have those same values on other, in other aspects, we didn't have those same values. So I think that it takes a certain level of maturity. That doesn't mean that there are not people in their 20s that don't have that maturity, because we have a lot of access to information now. So, there are people in their 20s that are very well ready to get married, and they're not doing it just off of feelings. And I love this person. They are having those tough conversations. They are talking about shared values, and it could work out, or it is working out. So I don't want to say it's an age thing. I think it is a maturity thing, but it's just that you find people in their 30s and their 40s that are more mature, that, have more life experiences. So they know exactly what they want. But like I said, that doesn't mean that people in their 20s, that doesn't mean you can't find people like that in their 20s.
All right, boom. I want to answer this question for, where is your name at? He just said, why, how come Dr. Dre's prenup didn't, White Falcon, there you go. White Falcon said, why didn't Dr. Dre prenup work? Well, one reason, he couldn't produce it. So he couldn't produce his prenup. I just did a little research, a little reconnaissance. We were online. And as of November 19th, he has submitted a copy of the prenup to the courts, dated May 25th, 1996. And he's asking that it be held up. Prior to that, he couldn't produce the prenup. So that would be why it wasn't working prior. Okay.
Well, also too, California, I mean, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I know California has very strenuous laws regarding marriage and separation. So,
and community property.
Yeah, so like California is not the place to be hitching if you don't know you're serious. Because like I remember that very clearly. You know, people in Cali have the standards are different all across.
And LaNee said this was from 1996. Like, again, people, most prenups are structured before nuptials. Drake, he done made so much money since 1996. Beats by Dre, like she getting half at least of all that, and he has kids with her.
Yeah,
like y'all, White Falcon 44. I'm glad you asked that question because you was against it, and I hope I can change your mind by the end of this conversation. Okay, like. You have kids, that's child support. You have wife support, that's alimony. Like a prenup might prevent you from paying alimony no matter when you get divorced, right? But them assets accumulated during that marriage, especially in California, that's fair game, honey. That is fair game.
Mm-hmm. You know what that reminds me of? Remember the movie Why Did I Get Married To? And Janet and Malik Yoba's character, they got a divorce. Like they were in the midst of a really messy divorce, and he wanted part of her book proceeds, I think. And it was because like she wrote it while they were married. And she's like, what page did you write? And he's just like, well, I contributed to, I gave you ideas and stuff. So that's what that reminded me of.
Yep. So according to this article, it says Dre submitted a copy of the prenuptial agreement he is demanding be enforced. He claims before they got married, Nicole signed a premarital agreement. Dre says they were both represented by lawyers. The deal said any property acquired in both of their names would be community property, and any earnings during marriage shall be separate property of the earning spouse. So,
well, you should have found it it got too far. I don't know how you're gonna lose something like that. And what kind of lawyers you got? They didn't have a copy, but anyway.
Okay. Right. That's
that
story.
That was 30 years ago, though, y'all. So I ain't gonna be too mad at it. Or I don't know how long, 90s.
So it says the problem is Nicole claims she was forced to sign the agreement under duress. She also claims Dre tore it up years into their marriage. As a result, she believes Dre owes her half of his $1 billion estate.
He better just give it on up. I'm tell you now.
So, okay. So getting back to our conversation. So when she asked, Suzzette Speaks asked the legal attorney about his own marriage, right? You say that you did not have a prenup. Do you wish you had had a prenup? And his answer was, initially in the clip, you only see the one piece where he says, no, I didn't have one and I didn't need one because my wife was cool. But after that clip, because we watched it in totality, he says, but I do wish I had gotten one. In hindsight, I got married young, got married early. And she said that one of the issues with people today getting married, not having prenups, is it's so easy to get a divorce. And she's like, no, I think the bigger issue is it's too easy to get married. Everybody just want to be married, get married, have a marriage, but everybody want to be married, but don't really look at what it takes to be married. Yep. I want a wedding, but I'm not prepared for marriage. Yep. And so because of that, you see this high divorce rate because people are like, oh, I'll get married. If it don't work, I'll get divorced. Well, yeah, but you could have children in the midst of that marriage that you didn't think through properly. Now you're getting a divorce. You have children. You could have, you could buy property. Now you have to split. One person can become overly successful. The other person does not. There's so many different things that can happen in a relationship, which is why I think that, having these difficult but delicate conversations up front and early, and making these plans for what happens that are important. What do you guys think? Do you think it's easier to get married or easier to get divorced?
I think that's an easy question. I think it's easier to get married.
Yep.
And like anything troubling, easy to get into, hard to get out of.
Like a timeshare.
Man, use it while it's good, and then when you finish it, like, I don't want it anymore.
Exactly. Too easy. Sometimes too easy.
So to that point, to that question, how do we make marriage harder to get into?
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I think, they have the counseling and things like that, but since nobody is responsible, like say for instance, when you're trying to buy a house, you have to go through this big screening process, right? Imagine if you were trying to get married and you also had to go through this huge screening process. I think I'm thinking of some kind of holiday movie perhaps in my head as this is coming out. But really that's what it is. I feel like, there's no screening process. Like you said, it can be high on emotions, things of that nature. Even though you get older, you still have moments where you living in la la land, especially with some people. But I feel like if there was a process, it would be more difficult.
I think if you get the family involved, and I don't know where I'm drawing this from. I don't know if it's the Chinese or Asian community, or if it might be African, it might be tribal. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to throw any place out, but I know that there are cultures where the family is a part of it, right? The mother, the father, they interview, they know, or they recommend a family, but the brothers show up. Like there is involvement. It's not just based on this one individual's who's emotionally involved and connected with this person, who a lot of times are looking out of the rose-colored glass and they're missing the red flags.
Right.
At 45, I tell my girlfriends all the time, a red flag is a red flag. It's not pink, it's not fuchsia, it's not mauve, it's not off red, it's red. And sometimes when you're younger or when you're in love, you will look at a red flag and try to give it context and define it and give it a reason as to why it's red and what we don't understand. But if you bring some family into it who is not looking at it from the rose-colored glass of love, they can be honest and they can see some different things and they can call out some different things and they can ask you some questions that you may not have thought of. I think that's kind of, because getting married, it is a business, it is a partnership, but it's also bringing two families together. And you want to make sure that both families can relate, that both families can get along, that both families, because you got a lot of people who are married and they don't like their mother-in-law, they don't like their father-in-law, the husband can't come over to the parents' house. Like that's a lot of stress and drama to go into a relationship with.
It really is.
What was that?
I said it really is.
It really is. But if we had more family involvement, because we're coming together as a family, we're coming together as a unit. If we had more involvement in the dating process, I think marriages would be stronger, because one auntie or cousin could be like, hey, have you thought about this? And have you asked him this questions? And his family could be like, oh, she's cool, but did you hear her say this? And how do you feel about that? And we can do more of a vetting process as we're growing. But what happens is we see the red flag and we be like, I'm not taking them over to my family's house because they go like you know that there's a red flag.
Right.
You won't bring it out or bring the person around because you are afraid of what your family will say.
Yeah. And you have to be receptive. I don't know. I'm getting feedback. I'm sorry, y'all. You have to be receptive, right? So even if that was the process, sometimes well, you don't know what it's like to be in this relationship, and I love him, right? Like, so it's like, I feel like we have to be trained to be receptive to what our family thinks and our family's input. And I know for me, like, I'm all about the village. So I'm all about, it takes a village. And I know with me and my village, in my ex engagement, my best friends, they were married already. And they used to tell me, like, look, Keisha, the problems that you're experiencing now, it's only going to be exacerbated in the marriage. It's not going to get easier. So don't think like just because you get married, it's going to get easier and it's all going to come together. It's like, no, like it does get harder as the stakes get higher. So shout out to them for telling me that, and shout out to my village and my support system, because I listen, you know, and of course you're not going to do every single thing that people say, like everything in your own timing, but it is important to have that input. And I just wanted to go to one of the comments. She said, I think it was Adrian, it's a major factor. Women, especially Black women, settle for less, too far less.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, like I agree with her. I was just talking about that a few days ago, and I was just saying that there are a lot of Black women that they feel that, oh, you know, there's not a lot of good Black men out there, and this Black man, he looks good on paper, even though he may not treat me the best and we may not be connected, but you know, he got money and I'm gonna just stick with him because I can't find anybody else. I feel like there are a lot of Black women that think like that. So we settle for less, and then we complain about the relationship, and we have all of these unhealthy and then toxic, right? That's the word now, like toxic relationships that go on because we're settling.
So I want to go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't think that Black women are constantly settling, right? I think what's happening is, you know, we're not dating enough. So the harsh reality is, if you searching for a house, you don't usually stop at the first one. You go to the next one and the next one till you find the one that you love. Well, pretty much in the mate, you know, we don't keep searching when we're dating. You know, you find somebody you like, oh, he's cool, he don't have this, he don't have that, but I'm okay with that, because sometimes you may not have all the things that you want as well. So I think that Black women, and also too, I'm not a person who's like huge on numbers, but I do know that you can bring all the single Black women in the field and all the heterosexual, healthy, available Black men in the field, the numbers will be drastically smaller. However, I think that we have to, like, I feel like there has to be a lot of intentionality. Like for myself, you know, a friend tell me I'm single. If I really want to find a mate, I probably should be going out on a date every week. Are you serious? You know, like I cannot go out on a date every week. You know, I cannot. I'm like trying to get on Melanated Air 2 times a week. You know what I'm saying? You think you can add a date? You know, so but that's what they say. Like in order to truly find, you know, like we should be dating very heavily, you know, and I don't think that we take the time to do that. But I'm gonna tell y'all something that's missing that I don't see a lot of anymore, and you guys can, you know, let me know if it's true or not. People are not hooking people up. When I tell you, back in the day, my grandmother and them, I mean, I wasn't there, of course, because I wasn't born, but it was kind of like my grandfather met my grandmother because his sister has met my grandmother at work. And the sister said, oh, you need to meet my brother. And that's what we used to have. And so then my grandmother meets my grandfather, and then he has a cousin, and she introduces him to, you know, a cousin of hers. We used to do that. Now all of a sudden, people will literally, in our own community, will watch you suffer, will watch you be single. People will come to your wedding, they'll come and help you pack up the house, but they won't do anything to help you stay together. What is wrong with our whole community? And when y'all was talking about meeting families, it's, I mean, you think you fell in love with a knucklehead, wait till you meet their mama. Wait till you meet their cousin. Wait till you meet
somewhere.
Okay,
don't fall far from the
they don't. You be like, oh my God, I've been dating this person 6 months. I've been seeing a lot of habits that's a little bit unhealthy, but goddamn, I came here for Thanksgiving, and this is crazy. This is crazy. So then you're like, wow. Hell no, I don't want to be a part of this family, you know? Yes. But then it's kind of like, well, how long you gonna be single, ma'am? You know?
Yeah, you gotta make some decisions. So Teddy, I see your comment, love. Sorry. So Teddy says, hey, lovelies and B1 family, my power just went out. I love y'all, though. We see you. Thank you so much for being with us today, Teddy.
We love you, Teddy.
I want to go back to, I've been trying to get this comment in, Lady Bryn. Lady Bryn says, how do you think that couples that decide not to get married but stay together for years should handle this kind of situation?
That's a good question.
So basically, they've been together 10, 15, 20 years. They've accrued wealth together. They're not married. There's no contract, and they're separating. What should happen?
Well, I would say that the wealth that they did accrue together, there still should have been some sort of contract with those assets. So let's say that they accumulated property together or they started a business together. There still should have been paperwork in place to protect both of those people. So regardless of if you're married or not, you should still have something in place when you are accumulating assets. So that's how I think that a couple that is not officially married should handle that. Now, if you're not married and the woman was letting the man, sign off on everything or vice versa, then you probably just asked out. What are you gonna do?
There's love and there's business.
Right.
You can have both, right? So if you are with your man and this is your guy and you guys love each other and you plan on being in this relationship for the long haul, when he starts a business, have him make you a business partner. Mm-hmm. Meaning there's no contract in the relationship, but there could be contract in the business, right? So if both of you are on the business and the relationship goes sour, then you guys are having business conversations and how do we separate our assets, right? So you don't have to be quote unquote married in order to do business and have partnership legally. So that if something does go awry, you can make sure that you're separating assets. The issue is a lot of times men and women, this is not a man versus woman or a woman versus man, because we're seeing this happen in both directions. So this is not a one-way conversation. That's the other thing about his conversation. And I felt better after I watched it in context, is he was always talking about the man. And I'm like, there's some women out here that are doing the same thing. So this is not a one-way conversation that just is directed at men. You have some women that are making $80,000, $100,000 that are marrying men that make 40. So it can go either way, right? But if you're getting into that situation and a person starts a business, you're not married, and a person starts a business, have that conversation. Is this your business? If this is their business, they are going to run it, they're going to handle it, then it's their business. If it's their business, but they want to bring you on, you're going to work the business, you're going to be an administrative assistant, you're going to be in the business, then put you on the business. You could be a member of the LLC, you could be, find a way to become a part of that business so that you're protected. So that would be my 2 cents. Make sure you're protected. Because no matter what they say, you're gonna be out there shuffling some paperwork. You're gonna be doing something in the business. Late night pillow talk. What do you think about this marketing strategy?
Right.
When I was dating my ex, the crazy part is I was so madly in love. I was like madly in love. Just bliss, right? So some of the things that I used to do in my business, I always included her in everything that was business related. So like anything with my business, I put her on the business account. I was more business minded. She would, of course, hold as a support to the business though. And when it was over, she didn't ask for anything, but she took shit either way, when it was all over, and then ultimately too, I realized how, just the emotional side was a driving force in the relationship, everything, being together, living together. It was just all from an emotional context, just never having the pure maturity to sit down and say, what plans do you have for yourself? And also too, we kind of dismiss where people are. We think that we can, some kind of way bring this person to this, to this arrival place in life. And the harsh reality is that we can't do that. The only time you can do that is if you're dealing with somebody who wants that for themselves and wants to allow a person to help them get to that place. I feel like sometimes as a woman, as soon as you meet certain people, you instantly sometimes just can kind of see like the best in them. And that's
potential. I call that the potential factor. I can say I see potential in him.
Yeah.
and then, like what you'll see is that the best in this person is your vision of them and for them. It is not something that they see within themselves. And sometimes I feel like we have to come to terms with that. I feel like the quicker we do, the less, the less the blow. That's all I really do feel, because I just basically feel like, me and my ex, we were house hunting and everything. And I'm so glad that, that house didn't work out. Because, it is something that you have to deal with no matter if you feel like it or not.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, Madam President. Don't fall in love with potential. See the person for who they really are, because that's going to come out. So it's cool during the honeymoon phase because you're all, ooh, hard eyes, right? But then when you get really upset with that person and y'all 10 toes down, 10 years in, and it's like, I hate you. But it's like, you knew this about this person 2 months in, you knew. But you thought that they had potential. You thought that you could change them, right? It's just like, no. Don't try to change anyone. Accept them for who they are, and you could love them from a distance. And that's something that I had to learn from my previous relationship, because I told you I went in at 18 and he wasn't doing the things that I wanted him to do. So I'm like, oh, I could change him. That young mentality, I could change him. And 12 years later, he was still doing the same stuff that he was doing at 18. And I'm just like, that's my fault. That's my fault for staying there and believing that he would change. And it wasn't up to him to change. Like if I wanted something from a man that he couldn't give me, I should have left. I shouldn't have expected him to give me what I wanted. If he couldn't do it, that just wasn't who he was. So don't fall in love with that potential. That's very, very dangerous, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Especially for women, because we always think we can fix a man. We always think that it didn't work for her, but I'm special. It's me. I'm gonna be the one to change you, and it doesn't. I'm gonna tell you why. There's a difference between potential and perseverance. You can see potential in people all day long. If they don't persevere or pursue, then it does not matter. Potential is just hopeful thinking. Oh, maybe this person can do these things. I see this thing in them. If they don't see it in themselves and they're not pursuing or persevering towards whatever that thing that you see as potential, it does not matter. Now, we're going to end with this last question. The last one, and you saw it in the clip, she asked him, do you have to date somebody that's college educated? Do you have to date somebody that's on your same level from an educational perspective? And I will say that I learned something here. And he said, no, because you have a lot of people. He was like, you can have people who have gone to college, master's degree, doctor's degree, and all they have is debt. And so they have education, debt, and they work a job, and they don't make a lot of money. I mean, they're not doing anything with themselves. They're not street smart. They're not book smart. They're not for the community, whatever the case might be. And then you can have some people who got a GED and persevered and worked hard and put themselves on the map. So education shouldn't be a factor. And I was like, you know what? That actually makes good sense, because I know a lot of cats who have not gone to college but have great jobs or are great family men or have gone to trade school and own their own plumbing business, but they're not college educated. Maybe they have a GED, and a lot of times, I will say probably women more so than men look at education as a dating factor. What do you guys think about that? Is education a factor for you guys when you're dating? You guys, let me know in the comments too. Is education a factor when you're dating? Are you looking for somebody in your same educational pool? Yay or nay?
You want me to go first, Keisha?
It's up to you.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that, yes, it used to not be, but let me tell you something. There's a difference between having education and being educated. I'm not looking for a person to have these degrees and still, be ignorant. I'm talking about like a person who is emotional and has emotional intelligence and critical thinking skills. I have dated people that, college dropouts, didn't complete college, and that's fine because Lord knows it took me a long time. But the point that I'm trying to make is, college is a segue of how people, went through certain things in life, regardless. You take information, you process it, you give the paper back to the professor and say, this is what I've gotten from this. This is the social environment, and etc. So I think, yes, and I think that it is a factor, for me when I'm dating. However, in the past, I used to kind of like, oh, I don't care about that. But that shit is important.
Okay.
I agree, Madam President. I was going to say the same thing, that you can be educated. That doesn't mean that you have the white man's piece of paper, right? Like you said, that doesn't mean that, right? And I say that I do have my master's degree, and I don't have to date someone that has a master's degree or a doctorate or even a bachelor's degree. If he's educated and we can have conversation and we can connect on different levels, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And like you said, Madam President, he has emotional intelligence, right? That's something that's important too, that we often overlook. So he can be intellectual, but he doesn't have that emotional intelligence. That's not going to work for me. So yes, you do have to be educated, but not in the traditional sense.
Yeah,
exactly. I like that.
I like that. You have to be educated, have some emotional intelligence, be able to communicate with me. You know what I'm saying? Those things are the things that are important. So I think we kind of looked at classism, right? Financials, education. There's all these various things that we use as barriers for dating. There's all these different conversations that we're not having. We're not talking about money. We're not talking about credit. We're not talking about estate planning. And we need to, right? If we have these conversations, we can bury our family members better. We can do better with generational wealth, legacy. We can ensure that our divorce rates aren't crazy if we're thinking about marriage from a prenuptial standpoint, being before we get married. If we're having these deep, uncomfortable, awkward conversations with the person that we're dating and maybe interested in marrying. If we're letting our family help us vet these individuals to kind of see who they are, if we do, whether you get a prenuptial agreement or not, just making sure that you're walking in alignment with the right type of person who has the right personality for you and your family and the children that you want to raise. Do you guys have the same beliefs? Keisha's talked about that before. And so all of this is relative. It's not just whether somebody makes more money or less money. It's about partnership. It's about building a team. It's about creating a legacy. It's about what you want to go into your children, how you want them to be raised. It's about the family that you're going to create. Because ultimately, if this person makes 80 and this person makes 40, as a unit, as a team, as a family, we make 120.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So last thoughts before we go ahead and say our goodbyes. Anybody have any final departing thoughts that they would like to leave our beautiful, amazing audience with?
Well, only thing I say is I just really feel like the one thing that I feel like is good is, have your heart open. When you're meeting people, give them the benefit of the doubt, because it's too difficult to think negative of a person. So have a positive mindset when you're meeting new people and kind of lead with love. And it's gonna, I promise you, and being intentional is gonna have a powerful impact on your life, even if the outcome isn't marriage.
Yes, I agree. And I just want to touch on one of the comments from before. They say, there are a lot of good Black men out there. And this is when we were talking about Black women settling. And I agree with that comment. There are a lot of good Black men out there. But just because he's a good Black man and you're a good Black woman, that doesn't mean you two are good for each other. Mm-hmm. So, you have to look at that too. So someone may look good on paper, the resume may match up, but that's why you also have the interview, right? That's why you also have the training and the probation period and those things, right? Because you may not be a good fit for each other. So definitely look at those core values. And I know we've mentioned it several times on this show, other times, on our previous shows, but those values, those core values really are important, and that's what helps the marriage to sustain. So it's not like LaNee said, it's not, oh, I make 85K or I make 6 figures. Like, it's not just that, right? Are you guys on the same plan when it comes to your finances, when it comes to a plan? Are you on the same page when it comes to spirituality and building legacy and what you're going to pass down to your children? Have you guys built that foundation? So look at the entire picture. It's not just, oh, he's a good man. It's not just he makes 6 figures or I make this. It's not just that. It really is the entire picture.
It really is. And Tony, I've seen you post this like 3 times. So I'm gonna throw it on up here. Keisha, he's presenting the ring app. It says ring and it says Keisha, so I'm assuming it's for you. But I would tell you that my girl Keisha, she's been out there in the market, but you like 2 months late. Tony, you're like 2 months late because she done got her a man, and he is a good man. We'll be meeting him next week. Next week we're doing a session on relationships.
Yes.
Next week we're doing a session on relationships. Keisha and her new boo of 2 months will be on. Teddy and her husband of umpteenth years. Myself, single, and Madam President, both of us single dating. I don't know. Are you dating? Are you dating?
I'm dating.
That's dating.
So we're gonna have a conversation on Black love and relationship from the professional perspective. As of right now, it's titled. What did we call it, Keisha?
Let me see, because you had a good title in there.
I have a good title for it. And I don't want to give it away, but Keisha got what she prayed for and didn't know what to do next. And so we've been counseling her and encouraging her on the back end. But I was like, this would be a great conversation to have in the public. So we're gonna do a conversation with her, her new boo, Teddy and her husband. And so it's gonna be a cool conversation next week. On Tuesday. So make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we talk this talk. We're going to be talking to the fellas about dating, what it's like to pursue a woman. When do you know you're ready to get married? What does that look like? It's going to be good. The back talk has been really, really good. And so we were like, let's have this conversation in front of people because it would be applicable and help. So make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday. Go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Go follow the Melanated Air Hour or the Melanated Air. If you're on YouTube, follow Melanated Air. If you're on Instagram, follow. You see our handles. I am LaNee Javet, Madam President. We inspire brand. The Real Teddy Talks. Follow us there. But make sure you guys come back for Tuesday because it's going to be a good time.
You want me to say the title that you picked, LaNee?
What's the name of the title?
When you get what you prayed for, what do you do next?
When you get what you prayed for, what do you do next? And Keisha is going to allow us to put her business in the street just a little bit, not all of it, but a little bit, because she kind of got what she prayed for. Then she was like, but, and I'm like, girl, did you pray for it? I will date a younger man. Don't play games. Like, you done prayed for what you wanted, you got what you wanted, and now you like, but. So we're gonna let y'all meet her boo. He is amazing. He is super cool. He's good folks. And so I don't want to give it all away, but that young man knows how to pursue a woman. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, he does.
That's all I'm gonna say.
And I was like, whoa.
He's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm like, girl, this is what it looks like when a man knows what he wants. But as women, we don't know what that looks like sometimes. And so we think it's aggressive, and we think he's being a stalker, but he's like, hey, I know what I want. You're it.
Yep.
What you want to do? She's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I know what I wanted, but I don't know if I want it.
So we're gonna have that conversation next week. It's gonna be a good conversation. So make sure you come back on Tuesday. Hit your notifications. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us at Melanated Air because it's gonna be a dope conversation. And we have fellas. We got the menses joining us next week. The menses joining us. So
yes.
We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for tuning into the Melanated Air Hour. We love you as always. Continue to be loving, be blessed, stay Black, and be one. We'll see you guys on next week. Peace.